To celebrate the launch of the Kickstarter campaign for my first ever feature-length documentary on 80s action films, In Search of the Last Action Heroes, we've compiled a top 10 list of the most iconic scenes from 80s action movies. Now, I quizzed my viewers last month on what was their favourite action moment / scene from the 1980s. The response was huge, and after some number crunching, I created the list and put it into a top 10. There weren't that many surprises from the choices, but I was surprised some classic scenes didn't quite make the list, so don't blame me if your favourite sequence is not included. As they say, don't shoot the messenger. Let's get started. Kicking off the list with the film that made Jean-Claude Van Damme a superstar. The viewers mentioned two memorable scenes from the film. First we have Van Damme doing the splits and punching the sumo fighter right in the knackers. The footage slows down to show off his pure rage and power that is expelled in that one punch, a move later borrowed by the makers of Mortal Kombat for the character Johnny Cage. Next we have Jean-Claude's character Frank Dukes facing off against Bolo. He performs the flying kick that is featured on the poster, but then he gets blinded. Could this be the end of Frank Dukes? But he remembers the skills he learnt from his master and manages to take Bolo on blind and finishes him off with his now famous helicopter kick, performing it 4 times.
That hurts me just looking at it.
The 1985 sequel to the 1982 classic went full-on crazy with its action and violence and was a massive hit with audiences, but didn't fare well with critics and even Stallone over the years. The movie made Rambo a household name and bred so many knockoffs. Rambo returns to Vietnam to save prisoners of war. As he manages to free them, he takes his revenge on the Vietnamese troops with a helicopter loaded with what it appears to be unlimited rockets, and reduces their base to a wasteland as he blows up everything. Big meaty explosions that will satisfy even the most skeptical moviegoer.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
Predator is well known for its epic action scenes, and nothing is more impressive than the team's first encounter with the Predator. As the Predator stands there in its camouflage, its eyes flash, giving away its location. Max spots it and screams out in horror as he sees the alien next to his fallen friend, Blaine. Max starts firing in anger, alerting the team to come to his rescue. What we see is one of the best displays of full-on American testosterone and 80s muscle power, everyone looking like they are posing for a fitness magazine and unleashing endless rounds into the jungle. Wonderfully shot and covered by director John McTiernan. With all the weapons at their disposal, they only managed to clip the Predator's leg. These guys are in serious trouble.
Yeah! Stick around.
George Miller returns to his Mad Max series with far more confidence in himself as a director and a larger budget to cause more destruction on the roads of Australia. The final chase, the action goes into overdrive as Max is being pursued by the evil gang who are terrorising the remaining population for its petrol and resources. As Mad Max leads the escape, cars smash and collide into the petrol tanker, and all done within camera, no CGI. Daring and crazy stunts that make it timeless. The finest Mad Max film of the original Mel Gibson trilogy.
You want to get out of here? You talk to me.
Robocop perfectly captures the extremes of 80s culture, big money, guns and egos, and rams all into a satirical blender. Personally, this is one of my favourite films of the 1980s. As Robo cleans up crime in old Detroit, he finds the central drug supplier and locates Clarence Bodiger and his gang and unleashes hell. Incredible direction and editing, as you get to see Robocop effortlessly blast these thugs and criminals to smithereens. One of the finest moments of seeing Robo doing what he does best. As he said at the start of the shootout,
"Come quietly or there will be trouble."
No one comes quietly, and that's for the best.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble.
Big Trouble was a massive bomb on release, but has gone on to have a huge cult following, and is a firm favourite of anyone who is a fan of Kurt Russell and director John Carpenter. The movie was ahead of its time and brought over the fantasy elements of Hong Kong cinema, and combined it with slick Hollywood filmmaking. As Jack Burton and his team make their way deep into Lo Pan's headquarters, they square off against his guards and the Three Storms. The battle at the beginning of the movie demonstrates some of the movie's fantastical elements, but this really goes full swing as the action and effects are turned up to 11. Seeing this as a kid was mind-blowing.
It's all in the reflexes.
At number 4 we have Die Hard, a film that shows us that the hero didn't need to be a muscle-bound superhero or a guy who spent hours in the gym and had experience in the military. This was an everyday cop that was dedicated to his job and needs to save his wife and co-workers from terrorists all by himself, and must use his wits and smarts to succeed. There are two favourite moments for my viewers that pops up a lot. When John McClane gets surprised from behind and has to run for his life. He runs off shooting and narrowly avoiding the spray of bullets as he gets cornered, and has only one way to escape, by running over broken glass in his bare feet. The next memorable moment is when McClane has nowhere else to go, as the bomb is about to go off. He has to resort to jumping off the roof with a fire hose wrapped around his waist. He jumps off on cue as the dynamite is set off. It cuts to a wide shot to give you the scale of the explosion. A great combination of stunt work and visual effects by industry legend Richard Edlund and his team at Boss Film. The Terminator really cemented Arnold Schwarzenegger as a superstar and kicked off James Cameron's career as a director. This low-budget sci-fi horror introduced us to the killing machine of the future and the threat of Skynet, a computer AI that will come to wipe out humanity. As the Terminator is sent back in time to 1984 to kill Sarah Connor, who will give birth to the leader of the future resistance against Skynet, he locates her in a bar called Tech Noir and manages to find her again in the police station. Both these moments receive loads of votes. These scenes demonstrate how deadly and threatening Arnold was as the Terminator, a machine that will never stop until Sarah is dead, and these moments capture how intimidating Arnold could be when he doesn't speak and just keeps moving forward like an unstoppable force.
Hey buddy, you got a dead cat in there or what?
Fuck you, asshole.
Another classic from James Cameron makes it at number 2, one of the greatest sequels ever made, and turned Sigourney Weaver into an action star. This movie took the Alien series into the action genre, which resulted in spin-off comics and video games, as the Marines and its setting became a favourite amongst the fans of the franchise. Aliens is full of great action scenes, but one really demonstrates the slick nature of the direction, and one of its scariest moments is when the power goes out and Ripley and the remaining Marines are cornered and the aliens are getting closer and closer but aren't visible. Ripley and the Marines realise they are above them. The aliens smash through the ceiling and jump towards the Marines. They unleash their pulse rifles and pump the monsters full of lead, but they quickly get outnumbered and have to escape before it's too late.
Get away from her, you bitch!
At number 1 we have Commando, a perfect example of a film that captures the spirit of the 80s action genre. A one-man army with a wealth of military experience and biceps the size of Bournemouth takes on an entire army by himself, with dozens of guns and endless ammunition. John Matrix's daughter is kidnapped by a group of mercenaries. The final battle has Matrix finally get to their stronghold. This scene captures the ridiculous nature of this premise, but executes it gloriously, as Arnold cuts through endless troops without hardly breaking a sweat. This action scene inspired many knockoffs and even spoofs. It's like watching someone play Doom with God mode on. This was a moment I think many of us as kids went out and reenacted in their garden or in the streets with their friends. Pure classic 80s action.
Bullshit! Let off some steam, Bennett.
Well, there you go folks, the top 10 action scenes as voted by my viewers. If it was my own personal list, I would have thrown in Jackie Chan's Police Story, Conan the Barbarian, Death Wish 3, as it's hilarious and over the top, and of course Superman 2 when he gets the bus thrown at him. You know me, I've got to have some Superman in there somewhere because, you know, I'm biased. As mentioned at the start of the video, my Kickstarter campaign has now launched. We've got some great rewards for those of you that back the project, including exclusive limited edition t-shirts, Blu-rays, signed posters and much more. If you are interested in supporting the feature-length documentary, check out the link below.